yeah, all three of those bones merge to form the acetabulum. That is where the hip bone or the femur, your upper leg bone, articulates with the pelvis. Now, sometimes people will fall and break their hip bone, and they can either break the femur or they might actually do some damage here. So it is possible to fall and bust your acetabulum. Now, let's take another look from a different viewpoint. And you can see that we have the pelvis. There's the sacrum. There's the coxal bone. Here's the acetabulum. There's the ilium, or the ischium. Whoops, sorry. There's the ilium there, the ischium, which is the part you sit on, and the pubis. And the pubis, the two halves are joined together in a structure called the symphysis pubis. I think I can show you this just a little bit better on a different application. So I'm going to show you again some of those pictures that we have from the lab. And now you can see these structures. So there's the ilium. This portion here is the iliac crest. There's the ischium. There's the pubis. And this is the acetabulum. And you'll notice that this is much deeper. It is than the glenoid fossa. Now, both of those are ball and socket joints, but there is a much deeper in this. So it's less likely that you're going to disarticulate your hip. We can take a look here and see all of these are labeled. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of them. Again, I want you to know the iliac crest, these three bones, and the acetabulum. If we go down here, these are the pelvises, and there are some differences between the male and female. This right here is the symphysis pubis, and it is a loose, or not loose, it is a dense, regular connective tissue that again allows a little bit of flexibility along with the sacroiliac joint, so that when you step down, there is just a little bit of movement that is allowed there. Now, you'd be surprised at how important this is, but my wife, she was in a car wreck a couple of years ago, and she ended up tearing the tissues that were in the sacroiliac joint. So they ended up having to put metal pins in her hip bone and immobilizing that. So there's no flexibility on one side of her hip. And as a result, she's got a little bit of a hitch in her get along. You can see a difference in the way that she walks. Now, the symphysis pubis has an advantage in childbirth, and the female pelvis becomes more flexible just before childbirth. There is a hormone that gets released called relaxin, and it softens this tissue here. It also softens some other connective tissues. So pregnant women are prone to get varicose veins, and because their feet tend to spread out a little bit over time. So it's not unusual after a baby's born that a woman's shoe size goes up. Now, that relaxin allows the pelvis to flex a little bit. And that's important because you've got great big baby's head going through little bitty opening. So there are several important features to the female pelvis that allow childbirth to occur. First off, the pelvis is just wider in general. And so right here, the arc where the pubic bones are is sort of U-shaped and a wide angle, whereas in the male pelvis, it is less than a 90-degree angle and it is V-shaped. Now, because it's wider, this opening is a little less obstructed than in the male pelvis. Fact is that a baby's head could not pass through the male pelvis. It would actually kill the male. Whereas the female pelvis, while it's not easy, it is certainly easier for a baby to pass through. So here's the female pelvis. It's got a very open arch here. Pelvis is wider. The coccyx doesn't turn in quite as much. And we have a large pelvic inlet. Now, the male pelvis is narrower. So we've got an angle like that. It's V-shaped. And the coccyx turns in just a little bit more. Additionally, we have a fairly small pelvic inlet. Now, if you imagine that's a baby's head. So a baby is not going to pass through the male pelvis. On the other hand, baby's head passes through relatively easily through a female pelvis. Why aren't the male and female pelvis exactly the same? Well, there's advantages and trade-offs. See, the male pelvis is narrower, so the forces are directed more downward. And also, there's less twisting that can occur with each step because the forces are directed more directly downward. This means that physically, the male can lift and carry things that are a little bit heavier. We can run just a little faster. Now, I can be outdone by a dachshund, so I'm not going to say much about that. But the female pelvis, because it is wider, there's a little energy that gets lost because the forces are not working directly down. Now, this allows childbirth, but even so, it's a compromise. If the female pelvis got much wider, it would actually compromise the ability to walk a little bit. As a result, we have to have our babies, or women have to have their babies, a lot earlier than other animals. We'd almost consider them premature. Because when you think about a horse, it's born, it can start walking within, maybe less than an hour. But human child gets born, it's going to take it 9 months, a year, before it can start walking. And at that stage development, the baby's much bigger. Well, it weighs a lot more. So let's say instead of weighing 6.5, 7 pounds, it's now 25 or 30 pounds. So would you want to pass a 30-pound baby? So end result is that we've got this physical compromise, and you end up having to take care of your babies for an extended period of time.